Hi folks, you're with Taskless today. Taskless today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay, I'd like to talk about something I find disconcerting. It's where private equity, if you like, the sort of the offshoots of the Blackrocks and the State Streets and so on, private equity buys up vital services. Buys up assets in the vital services area that attract government subsidies and government handouts, government underwriting, government funding. And the government does nothing to stop this. In fact, they seem to be working almost hand in glove with these private equity firms. And it smacks, to me at least, it smacks of corrupt practices and definitely cronyism. Now, the system works, or the process works something like this. This is a for example, by the way. I'm not saying this is or isn't happening, but the government is looking at announcing that they're going to provide a funding subsidy for all early childcare places across Australia for $100 per day per kid, or $200 or whatever, an amount. But it's going to be a direct government subsidy. So if you have a early childcare centre and you've got, you claim to have 100 kids, and you're getting 100 times 100, thousands of dollars a day handed to you, gifted to you by the government. And then you can also stiff the parents for payments as well. And then that qualifies you for various other sort of funding from other areas. Children that have special needs, you get extra funding, and so on. So it becomes something of a cash cow. And if you organise your finances properly, offshore loans, management fees, the real estate investment angle, all this sort of stuff, then you can actually make a lot of money doing this. And so the high returns, especially given so much money is given to you by the government, looted from the taxpayer. Private equity seeking high investment returns flock to these sorts of things. Now, should they be allowed to profiteer? Because they're looking to absolutely maximize, screw every nickel out of it, maximize the returns on the investment. And the vehicle is that they're offering early childcare, but the early childcare is they're not there to offer childcare. They're there to provide an investment vehicle for substantial investment returns, and that rather perverts, I think, and corrupts the purpose of why they're in business. They're not in business to deliver the service. All they have to do is deliver a head count. The women have to work. Both partners have to work, so they have to access childcare services. So effectively, childcare services are a mandatory requirement for so many people now. The government's throwing money around, and so why not? Now, the same thing goes for medical centres, and I was surprised that there was a medical centre that there's an elderly relative I look after or help participate in looking after and taking to doctor's appointments, that sort of thing. And so I'm taking her there, and I noticed that there was a change in the place that used to be owned by a community of doctors. So the group of doctors sort of owned this, and they split the profits and so on. I don't know how well it went for them financially. They seem to be doing all right, but it was the owner of it, or the principal and doctor, that was sort of if you like, the practice manager of it all. I was talking to him, and he mentioned that private equity had bought out the business and had paid what he thought was quite a regal sum for the practice. He wouldn't have thought it was anywhere near worth that much. But it's interesting how they corporatized it, and how they, shortly after they bought it, the government announced additional subsidies for certain areas of medical practice. And I thought, how did they know that? How did this private equity firm know that these government handouts were imminent, and they buy this business, this medical practice, days before this announcement gets made? I mean, I don't believe that's just serendipitous. They must have known. So this is insider trading, and also the rush of people to buy, investment companies to buy early childhood care centres just before the government announces, major increases in the per head subsidies, to help these poor oppressed and so on. So now, as soon as the government makes that childcare place a little cheaper because they're doing a bigger subsidy, the private investment firm takes the view, well, we can now increase our prices on top of the government subsidy because these people have to pay less. So if they're paying $100 a day, net terms $100 a day, but the government's covering now another $50 of that, we can add another $25 on there. We can still say that the parents are saving $25 a day, but we've just collected another $50 from the government, then another $25, and so on. So they can stuff their pockets full of money. Now, the money is borrowed from offshore, the private equity firm, so they're paying a management fee to the offshore, so they don't pay any tax. Then another company, the subsidiary of that company, owns the real estate, and then that company then charges rent to the other company that does the childcare. Then they use a labour hire company to bring in, third world peasants to be child carers, and so and then they're stacking them in 20 to a room or 20 to a one bedroom apartment. So they're paying, less than half the wages, and so there are numerous scams going. But what it means is they're realizing a huge return on the investment. But are they providing a quality, well-managed childcare service? Well, no. The certification that childcare practitioners have is got in some third world shithole country. They probably don't even have a certification. It's some little certification factory in the middle of India somewhere that just churns these things out, and they so they can wave a certificate around and say, I'm a certified childcare practitioner. No, you're not. You're a rural peasant from the middle of fucking nowhere. You can't get any certifications. So they bring those. So the whole thing effectively is a scam, not a childcare service, and it's meant to again deliver substantial profits. Now, if I was in government, if any reasonable person, not me, any reasonable person, say, hold on a minute, stop. We're not handing out these, we're handing out these subsidies for childcare to make life easier for Australian citizens who have to work and they want to put their children in care, like before and after school and that sort of thing, or even during the day while they're out working. That's what that's what we're doing it for. That's why we're to make life less expensive and easier for these people. And what some private equity firm's going to jump in the middle of that and just realize supernormal profits for their investment, and they rake off huge management fees, and effectively they're looting the taxpayer to fatten up their profits without delivering a service or the benefit of the price reduction to these working families. To me, that would be I'd clamp down and put a stop on that straight away. Now, the other side of the argument is, if we don't let these private equity firms do it, then we won't have any childcare centres. That's bullshit. So I would suggest that I do see their point, by the way. Organisations that can quickly mobilise large amounts of capital and put a building in place and put people, that appears on the surface to be, well, look, they are supplying a service to the community. Well, no, they're not. The appearance of the service is there, but in fact, they're just looting the taxpayer without providing the corresponding service for the community. So I'd jump all over that and put a stop to it. Provide disincentive for them to do this. Would I in turn encourage other, cooperatives and things like that to fill the void? Well, sure. And I think the government needs to take a long, hard look at this. Now, I've read a couple of, or the headlines of at least, a couple of reports that have been commissioned by leftist groups. But they've got this terrible habit of getting these angry, leftist lesbians to do the reporting and do the examination of the childcare centres. So their primary aim is just to attack the profit motive wherever they see it, and say that only a Marxist village concept can bring up the children, so they're swinging in the wrong way. Deliver quality services to the populace at an affordable price. That's what you have to do. What the fuck is so hard about that? Give me a Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for listening.